Hello, I'm Anne Cotton and I'm the founder and president of Camfed International. Well, the primary reason that girls in Africa don't go to school, particularly secondary school, only 8 out of every 100 girls actually complete secondary school education in sub-Saharan Africa. The primary reason is poverty, the poverty of families, their inability to meet the costs of education beyond primary school level. So Camfed began by challenging the notion that the reason girls weren't at school was because of traditional resistance, cultural attitudes to the education of girls. The reason that families in the community where I was studying in Nyami in Zimbabwe weren't at school was because of crushing poverty, and because the environment, the wider environment, favoured boys who had a much better chance of paid work, and it was very important for them to bring cash back to the family for this family's security. So the decision was not based on traditional cultural attitudes, it was based on hard economics. So Camfed begins where the problem lies, and that is in the community. The community has the knowledge base, it has the social networks, it has the understanding of how to deliver change. So we work in partnership with communities, with the institutions that pre-exist Camfed, the traditional leaders, for example, religious institutions, and of course the school system, the government school system. And we bring those constituencies together that can advance girls' education to deliver support to girls. And so it's very much located in the community. And through that, we have formalized structures. We built within communities structures that are respected by ministries of education, consulted by ministries of education, community development committees that drive forward on change. But we look at a child's life from multiple perspectives. A child in the home. How is the family organized? Do girls have to do the majority of domestic and agricultural chores? Well, that is indeed tends to be the case. So we will work with parents, helping parents who themselves didn't go to school because they were living either through the colonial period or didn't have the means. We are helping them to understand how education works, how the system works, how they can help their children. And again, looking beyond that, looking to the wider community. What about the safety of girls on the way to and from school? The community taking responsibility for girls' safety. What about in the classroom itself, where girls tend to be outnumbered by boys? Are teachers actually addressing the fact that girls lack confidence when they're in a minority? How do they encourage girls to speak in class and to believe in their own capabilities and intelligence? So it's a very holistic look at a child's educational experience. And then going beyond education, beyond the formal education in secondary school, what next? Well, the opportunities aren't there. Massive unemployment, it can be up to 80% for young people. So what are the jobs we can create? What are the opportunities that we can create? So for all those who have the academic results, we can support them on into tertiary level education or professional training. For those who do not necessarily get those results, then we can support them into business training, or if that is their choice in any event, if they choose perhaps not to go to university. So business training with grants to enable them to invest in the local economy, to diversify the local economy and for themselves to create jobs. Alumni of the organisation are the change makers, are the primary change makers. As they're growing up, so they become the new philanthropists, the new educators, the new health workers, the new businesswomen, the new politicians in time. And so they are driving change. So our investment in that alumni is very extensive, to recognise them as the force for change. Because we believe that if young people in poor rural communities are supported and are supported to remain and contribute to the communities, we will see a social and economic transformation. Across the world, there are marginalised communities, marginalised by poverty, marginalised by their indigenous cultures. So this model actually puts power back in those communities, power that is supported by training and support. For example, community development committees. We don't say, okay, now you're formed, now you carry on and proceed. We provide a lot of training in decision making, training in transparency, training in data collection. So giving communities those skills that will enable them to become more and more effective in the process of change. It is really a sort of common sense. It is a kind of common wisdom, but common wisdom isn't practiced oftentimes in the world because the vested interests are in the expertise from outside, if you like, from outside the community. And poor communities are infantilized in this process. They are given what others from outside the community think that they should have, rather than being involved in the process of making decisions. So for the future of Camfed, Camfed works in Zimbabwe, Zambia, Ghana, Tanzania and Malawi, and is expanding its work. It's expanded most recently to South Africa, and indeed is expanding and working with ministries in other countries. The big investment will be in the alumni, because when you have a large number of young people from their communities who understand poverty, who've lived it, who understand the lack of confidence that comes from poverty, who've watched their mothers sit waiting in a queue endlessly and then been told that the health service or whatever it is closing. They've seen that and they want to change it. So they have the experience, they have the knowledge, and now they have the education, they have the confidence, and they have the analysis to make change. So their investment in education systems, in health systems, in social systems, in business, in politics, will be absolutely instrumental in solving the problems of marginalised rural communities. Well, when I was 11 years old, I won a scholarship to a private girls' school in my home country of Wales in Great Britain. And I went with a great sense of excitement because I was the first girl from my community, the first girl from my school to get a scholarship like this. And what I didn't understand was that I was entering a very different social milieu. My father was a teacher, so we didn't have a car at the time. This was 1960. We lived in a terraced house. We didn't go on holidays abroad. In fact, we didn't go on holidays generally. And I moved into a school where pupils had expensive houses, came to school in cars, had been on an aeroplane, and I felt very much out of my depth. I was told that my accent was wrong, that I had to change it, I had to have extra elocution lessons. This time for me was painful as a child, but it really gave me an insight into social exclusion and the injustice of behaving towards a child who was entitled to be in that school by virtue of an academic test, but was not valued within it. For me, that educational experience made me an activist for education. I didn't know it at the time while I was experiencing it. And there are some wonderful words of Dickens where he says, "In this little world in which children have their existence, there is nothing so keenly felt or keenly perceived as injustice." And that injustice of those years for me of childhood have really shaped my attitude to my work, to my profession, and to education, of course, more broadly. It is a very great pleasure and a great privilege always to be invited to speak to an audience of educators. I have been in education since my first job, age 21, when I was a teacher in inner London. And I am passionate about education, about its possibilities and its responsibilities. And it's inspiring to be with a group of people from all over the world, such a committed and passionate community. So it's been a wonderful experience. It is a wonderful experience. Thank you.